What is going on, guys? Greggles TV. I have the iPhone 11 right here, which was made in 2019, the end of 2019. And we have the iPhone SE 2020 that was released in 2020. Now, the body for this takes over from the iPhone 7, which came out years ago, but internally, some of the stuff is quite similar. They both have the A13 processor, so it's the newest processor in both. They both have IP ratings, IP67, IP68, so this beats it a little bit. And IP ratings is dust and water resistance. And they're kind of similar in a lot of ways and kind of not similar. This one goes for $399 starting off with 64 gigs of storage. This also has 64 gigs of storage, but starts off at $699. Both have LCD displays. So we'll go through the phone, so let's do that. So first of all, you'll see, first off, right off the bat, a huge size difference. You can literally put this whole entire phone inside of the iPhone 11. It's ridiculous, you know, how large this phone is and how small this one is. Over time, how much these phones have changed. This is still a really comfortable phone in your hand. For me, this is actually probably the perfect size for a phone in terms of the screen real estate you get, but also just holding it in your hand. It's very, very comfortable. Now, I will admit, this iPhone SE 2020 is much more comfortable to hold in your hand. I can literally hit all the buttons. I have small hands, but I can literally hit all the buttons with my hand without having to really stretch out and do anything. It's super comfortable. But obviously with a smaller screen, seeing things such as a website, so let me bring up the Apple website on both. So I have both phones loaded up with the iPhone website, and I mean, you might not be able to tell much of a difference, but as you know, as time goes on and you look at different things on here, you're going to notice huge differences in terms of the way that you can see things on this phone, especially if you're an older person. I would personally want the iPhone 11 just because the iPhone SE 2020 screen is just so small. And then checking out Instagram as well, you can see there is, just look at the names, for instance, how large that one is versus this one. It's a huge size difference in terms of how to just reading text and things like that. Big difference between the two. It's pretty freaking wild with what you can see. So I would, again, for me, my money, if you're an older person, I would say get the iPhone 11 over the SE 2020. But again, if you have great eyesight, I don't think you'll mind. The other thing you'll notice is just navigating the phone as well. So they still have the old school home button, which has a fingerprint sensor built into it. And we'll go over that next, but I mean, after this, but first of all, just navigating the phone. So with this phone, if you're, you know, on inside of an app and you want to go home, you have to hit the home button. If you're on the iPhone 11, and you're in an app, you have to swipe up to go home. To me, after using both of these phones, especially if you're used to this might seem a little foreign, but after a while, I absolutely love navigating by just swiping up. So much more comfortable, so much more natural as well. And then the other thing is you really don't have to do much to do anything else. So for instance, if I'm either in an app, I can either press up and go home, or I can press up and hold it and bring up my recent apps. Also, a cool thing you can do is you can swipe like this to go in between apps without having to go back to using the phone to do other things, you know, like if you wanted to go between an app. Now with the iPhone SE 2020, like I said, you can go home that way, but to bring up your recent apps, you have to double tap the home button, but there's no way for you to easily go between these apps. I mean, you can go like this. It's not difficult, just not as fluid. And like I mentioned earlier, the iPhone SE 2020 does have a fingerprint sensor. The iPhone 11 does not. It has Face ID. Between the two, I'll be honest with you, I do choose Face ID over this. I've just had not perfect time unlocking this phone. Sometimes it's been a little bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, it's working fine right now. I guess I get it normally with my left hand, which I have the fingerprint set up, but you can see it doesn't work all the time for some reason with my left thumb. It does work generally, don't get me wrong, it does work very well, but it just doesn't work, at least for me anyway, as well as Face ID, which I don't know if I'll be able to show you it really, but I'll hold it up right here. You swipe up and it unlocks your phone. It's pretty seamless. I love that part of just being able to easily unlock my phone with my face. And again, you have to point it at your face for the most part, but I do like the face unlock better. And again, I do like the navigating of the phone better on the iPhone 11. It might take a little bit of usage in terms of getting used to it if you're used to the old school home button, but I absolutely love it on the iPhone 11. Next, here's what videos look like side by side Much bigger display if you like watching videos, and also you can pinch in and get even more real estate. You can't do that on the iPhone. Look at these huge bezels as well, you know, just let me pop through this a little bit. So you can see the huge bezels on this phone. It's literally that large, and this one is almost all display except for the little notch cutout. Again, I prefer the iPhone 11 over the iPhone SE 2020. Next, let's listen to some sound through these speakers. I mean, for me, just listening to these, I probably would give it to the iPhone 11. The speakers, they sound a little bit more bassier, a little bit more clear, a little bit more louder, which doesn't surprise me. It is a newer modeled phone, but it's fairly close. Next, let's check out the cameras on both of these phones. Now, the big difference between these cameras, obviously the iPhone 11 has newer, more updated cameras, and it also has an ultra wide angle camera lens, which the SE20 doesn't, and I love the ultra wide angle. I'll show you some photos that it captures with it. Just captures so much more. You can also do videos with it as well on the front, and then we'll also show some videos and photos with the front camera. Here you go, a little cameras comparison front video with both of my iPhones. I'm currently looking at the iPhone 11. Now I'm looking at the iPhone SE 2020, and you get a good difference of sound. Hopefully you can tell which one sounds better and also which one looks better. And I don't know which one I'm looking at, but I'll switch between the microphone and on both. I'll tell you which one I'm looking at and doing, and I'll blah, 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 blah. Here you guys go, back camera, main camera, getting hopefully a good look at what these look like and sound like from the back side. Not to sound dirty, but yeah, this is the back side, right? It's the back side of the phone. Which one do you think looks and sounds better, the iPhone 11 or the iPhone SE 2020? Another thing I wanted to show off is typing. So typing is obviously gonna be a big thing because you're gonna do a lot of that on here. So let's check this out. So if I was searching for something, let me click up here. And you can see the keyboard, you can see the size of the keyboard, and you can see that, you know, is it something that's going to be easy to type on? So maybe I'm looking for something to do with sharks. You can see that the keyboard is pretty big. At least it's comfortable enough. When you pick up something like this, you can see the keyboard is ultra tiny. It's still easy to type, especially I think the iPhone probably has the best keyboard in terms of getting the correct wording for what you're typing when it autocorrects. But yeah, the keyboard is crazy small. If you're worried about typing, you have fat fingers, you're definitely gonna wanna get the iPhone 11. We talked about these phones both having the A13 processor, so let's check out a benchmark. I'm not huge on benchmarks, but I will let you know on day-to-day usage of using these phones, they're both quite similar of, you know, opening apps, jumping around, so I wouldn't say one has a huge, bigger jump in terms of overall performance day-to-day usage. And while that's running through the benchmark, battery-wise, you will get better battery life with the iPhone 11 versus the iPhone SE 2020. Probably screen on time somewhere between up to 2, maybe 3 hours more of screen on time with the iPhone 11 over the iPhone SE 2020, which both these will give you hours and hours of screen on time, but you're definitely gonna get better battery life with the iPhone 11. So let's talk about benchmarks real quick. You can see the iPhone 11 did beat it in every single benchmark, single core, multi-core processor. It beat it in the memory test. It beat it in the UX test. So the whole, and it beat it sizably as well. So if you're looking for something with the best performance, you're gonna wanna get the iPhone 11. Now I said on a day-to-day usage, you probably won't really notice much of a difference at all. Even in games, both are gonna game really, really well, but if you want the top peak performance from either one of these phones, you're gonna wanna go with the iPhone 11. Another cool thing that these phones can both do, we talked about battery life, is they can both wirelessly charge. So you're gonna put this phone on real quick, you can see it starts wireless charging, which is fantastic, especially with a phone that has the body of a phone from years ago. And then you take the iPhone 11, and this also obviously can wirelessly charge. Now beyond wirelessly charging, you can charge these via the lightning cable at the bottom there. So you probably have an iPhone cable, and it obviously will fit both of these. The buttons are on the same size. You get your volume up and down and mute switch on the left, and on the right hand side you get your power button. So let's just run through everything really, really quickly. Price, if it's a big deal money-wise, if you don't want to spend $300 more to get a slightly better phone, get the iPhone SE 2020. If you need a phone with a bigger screen because you want to be able to read the text of the website you're on or the social media that you're looking at, get the iPhone 11. It's going to be much easier to see things. It's going to be much more comfortable as well. If you're used to the home button and you don't want to learn a slightly new navigation, be it having to swipe up to go home or swipe up to bring you recent apps and things like that, get the iPhone SE 2020. You're going to be very familiar with the home button, which also acts as a fingerprint sensor. But again, I absolutely love Face ID. It works great. I know my father-in-law has trouble with the fingerprint sensor because he's really calloused thumbs, so Face Unlock works great for him. And then, I don't know, it's not that hard to learn to swipe up to go home. And I don't know, it's not that big a deal, to be honest with you. Speaker-wise, you're looking at a phone that, both are kind of similar, but this beats it ever so slightly, I feel like, in speakers. Cameras, iPhone 11 will beat it and does beat it in cameras in terms of slight quality improvements and overall performance of the camera. So I think, if you're looking for the best camera, you're gonna wanna get the iPhone 11. They can both wirelessly charge. They both charge with the lightning cable. They don't have a headphone jack, so it's not like you're gonna have a phone that has a headphone jack and another one doesn't. They can both, performance-wise, you can see this one, the iPhone 11 did get a better benchmark score, but just day-to-day usage, these phones definitely perform at a very similar level. With all that said and done, is the iPhone 11 double the price better than this phone? Probably not, but you might need a bigger display. You might need better battery life. You might want a phone that's gonna look and feel better to you over the years in terms of how it ages. And this phone will do that for you, but it's hard to say, oh yeah, spend $300-400 more if you don't have it to get this phone, just to not get this phone. So let me know what phone you would choose and why in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. See you guys down the road. Peace.